Awesome. All right. So we went ahead and we chilled our wort. We're at about 80 degrees, and the instructions said 80 degrees and lower. So our next step is we're going to take the wort from the stock pot. We're going to put it in our fermenting bucket. We're going to do the last few steps for just before we start doing the fermentation, which is we'll put the wort into the bucket. Now, one of the things it says is to aerate the wort. Well, you could sit there with a little paddle and stir the wort, but as you pour it from the stock pot into your fermenting bucket, it's already aerating. So here's our next step right here. We're going to take our fermenting bucket, which has your gallon measurements, and once you put your wort in here, you're going to take your either your filtered water or your distilled water, and you're going to top it off to 5 gallons. And you're going to put, then you're going to pick your yeast, which is depending on what the instructions on the yeast packet are, whether it's to sprinkle it in or you follow instructions. You got to mix it and let it sit and activate. So here we go. Alright, so before I put the wort into the fermenting bucket, if you remember, I had some wood chips soaking in some rum. Here they are, nice, dark, pretty wood chips. And I've done this before without soaking it in the rum. I just put the wood chips into the bucket and let it ferment and then bottled it. And it actually made the beer a lot smoother. It just had more of a smoother flavor to it, more enjoyable. And so this is going to be my first time soaking the wood chips in a rum, and I'm actually kind of excited to see what it's going to taste like. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and put these into the bucket. Now, what I'm doing too is I'm trying to get the wood chips in, and there's just a tiny bit of rum in there. I'm not going to put the rest of that rum in there because I'm not sure if that's going to have any adverse effect with the brew. So here we go with our stock pot, dumping the wort into our fermenting bucket. Okay, right now we're at about, I think about 3 gallons. And so I'm going to go ahead and take my water, and I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm going to fill it up to this mark that says 5. And I believe, let's see here, that is foam. Okay, so there's foam right here, but I'm going to fill it up past that, knock down some of that foam so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so we're at about 4.5 gallons right now. Okay, so it looks like we're at about 5 gallons. So the next step is we're going to pitch our yeast. Just leave the camera there. Alright, so here we got our little packet of yeast. This kit calls for the sulfile S04. I'm going to go ahead and take my water bottle with my sanitizer. I'm going to sanitize my scissors and the packet of yeast. And that is that. So our yeast is pitched, our wort is into the bucket. We got our airlock with some of our sanitizing solution on our sanitized bucket lid. We're just going to lock that into place. And plus, another helpful tip I learned the hard way: when you're putting the lid on your bucket, make sure your airlock is on the opposite side of where your handle is at. Otherwise, you run into some BS when you try to lift up your handle. And trust me, that's not fun. So we're going to put our lid on with the airlock on the opposite side so when you pick it up. Also, a lot of people, instead of using the bucket for their primary fermentation, they use a cardboard, which is a big glass jug. Some people are sticklers with that. And then there's people like me, hey, as long as it turns into beer and it gets you drunk, whatever. So there we go. Now our wort is official, and I better get there. Okay, no, we're good. All right. So our wort is official, airlock, lid, and now we just gotta sit and wait. You'll notice in the airlock there'll be some bubbling within the next day or two. So, and you let that sit for about 5 to 7 days. Usually when the bubbling comes to a very slow bubble, like maybe one bubble every, let's say, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, you should be getting close to moving it from your primary stage fermentation to secondary stage fermentation. And when we get to that, I'll make another video and show you the process of transporting it from the first stage to the second stage. And the reason why there are 2 stages is that sometimes some of your brews will have a lot of silt in it from the yeast and eating the sugars. Some of the yeast will die off, and some of the other stuff that you've done throughout the brewing process will make sediment, and putting it into the second stage will help with some of the settling of any sediment that might be left in your wort. But we'll get to that when we get ready to our second stage. But you can always do a 1 stage. Just be ready to drink a lot of silt when you bottle your beer. So until next time, have fun and I have faith in you. Go ahead and go get yourself a kit and get yourself a first batch going, and I'll walk you through the steps of bottling. Thank you, and you have a good day.